Today we're going to be taking a look at spreadsheet tips for pivot tables. Pivot tables are something that is, I think, very useful, especially if you work with large spreadsheets with lots and lots of data on it. Typically, your employee payroll register would be one of these type of files, maybe a huge customer database. A lot of times you'll start out with a very huge file and you're only interested in maybe just a couple different pieces of information, not everything that that file provides. So a pivot table is a great tool to be able to scale down without modifying that original data file. You can pull out of it what specifically you're looking for. So let's take a look at creating a pivot table with just a small data subset. We're looking at a sample employee register. And let's say that your manager simply wants to see the employees by department and how much salary we're paying out by department. Not interested in the bonus or the gender or the employee number. We could easily do that, and we could do it rather quickly. And we're going to use a pivot table to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do, since we're not modifying our original data, we're going to go ahead and go to a new tab. Okay? So within our new tab, we're simply going to go up and say Insert Pivot Table. And right away it wants to know what data and what range we are referencing when we are making our pivot table. So we'll leave this up and click on Sheet 1 and go ahead and highlight including the titles, our data table. And since we already went to a new sheet, we'll say existing sheet. If we hadn't gone to a new sheet, it would be a great idea to say go to a new worksheet with your pivot table. Okay, so now we're going to take a peek over here on the right hand of the screen. These are all of the data labels, and it's giving us a choice of what we want to bring into our pivot table. And one thing to know is that as you're selecting, the order does matter. So if the main basis of your table is department, you're going to want to select department first. You can see on our table here the department's filled in. Then I'm going to want to know the employee's name. So you can see accounting still stayed one subset here with the employees that were in accounting. And then my manager wanted to know the salary we're paying by department. So those are the three data sets that my manager was interested in, and I went ahead and very quickly pulled those out for that particular manager without modifying my original data sheet. So that's a pivot table in a nutshell. And one thing I always do, just because I'm an accountant, is I always verify my grand totals just to make sure that my pivot table is working the way it should be. So here I just highlighted the set total salaries, and down here you can see that Excel summed it up for me, 559,000. If I go over to my pivot table, I can see that that is exactly what my pivot table also came up with. So hopefully you found this useful, but this is just an example, a very small example of how you can use a pivot table. And I hope you try it out, especially if you have any large data sets within a spreadsheet where you're only just looking for a couple specific fields. This will really cut down on some of that data overload without modifying that original data spreadsheet. Thanks for joining me today.